Hi, I'm Roy, and this time I'm going to try and make a full-on Garbaugust video. So Garbaugust, it's a month of reading trashy novels. It's a booktube thing initiated by Criminoli and a bunch of fellow travellers. Details down below. Um, and diving right in, I'm looking at two novels from 1971, um, both of which deal with their exploitation paperbacks, riffing on something that was in the public mind, kind of people's fears and concerns about something, a bit like the Skinhead books did and Hell's Angels books. These, Wham and Witch, took feminism as its big fear thing to play with. Um, so both of these are in similar kinds of ways trying to make sort of pulp headway out of women's liberation. And at the time, I think women feminism wasn't really a term in a great deal of use as far as I can see. Women's liberation certainly was. I did a search on British Newspaper Archive for the more pejorative term women's lib, and in 1970 that appeared 17 times, 1 7. In 1971, the year these books came out, it appeared 1,077 times, and then slightly increasing figures over the next couple of years. So I think that sort of shows how paperback publishers would try and jump on a trend, pull something out of it, and sell books. And these two novels, which I think qualify as trash by any yardstick you could possibly care to devise, um, are great examples of that. So Wham by Mike Stout. Wham stands for We Hate All Males, and the blurb is about a kind of well, let me read it out. Wham! Exclamation mark. Sure sign of trashiness, having an exclamation mark in the title. We hate all males. Stage 1. Sabotage the Miss World contest and force the judges to parade naked, bald heads gleaming and bellies bulging. Stage 2. Operation Housewife unites all women to vote Wham at the general election. Lydia Lovemore is elected Prime Minister. Stage 3. The Wham SS is formed to liquidate all males who refuse the state's free euthanasia service. Stage 4. The millennium has arrived, but something is unaccountably missing. So those are the colours Wham sails under. Which, WITCH, stands for We Intend to Create Havoc. And the blurb on the back is the 9 principles of the Witch Creed. We intend to gain equality, we intend to shed our chains, we intend to fight for right. And basically it stands for We Intend to Create Havoc. And we're promised hordes of bare-breasted, shaven-headed girls on motorcycles roar into Southend, bank holiday style. Cities everywhere are saturated with strip clubs for girls, where titillating males peel off their drag. Havoc, pure havoc, created by leather-clad, hate-filled witches. And they both cost 25 pence, or 5 shillings on the cusp of decimalisation, so you get both prices. On the front of Wham, we see this figure with 2 guns, also a sign of trashiness, according to Ollie, which I would agree with, although whether it counts if one of the guns is like a sidearm still in its holster, not sure. But you've got this kind of paramilitary figure with a Venus symbol, and it's there's got to be extra trash points for the fact that Sphere Books plagiarized one of their own covers. So MASH, they published the MASH novel, and they took the rather repulsive movie poster artwork and put it on this red background, and as you can see, the typography layout is all exactly the same. So they're clearly hoping that it would sort of put this in the same wheelhouse as the vastly popular MASH. Now, MASH has its problems, but it's like flipping Shakespeare compared to this, in which, as promised, you get a female takeover of the country. Men are completely liquidated. Um, there's actually a just to sort of maybe it's a work of prophecy, in that there's one of the paranoid things is that computer fraud is used to fiddle the election, so that the leader of the WAM organisation becomes the prime minister, and men are completely eliminated. But in a classic bit of this kind of thing, the victorious women find a way to reproduce, not needing men. So not only is it fear of women, it's also fear of gender movement, gender fluidity, I guess you could say. Now, the Witch actually came out slightly before Wham. So what happened was, New English Library commissioned Wham, but the author took the manuscript and went to Sphere with it, got more money. So Sphere were publishing this, which annoyed the New English Library folks. So they rushed out their own book with the same concept and obviously made it look pretty similar very quickly. So it's which notionally the author is Jane Harman. It's actually written by Terry Harknett, highly experienced novelist, pulp novelist. Again, he would go on to write the Edge Westerns and dozens of other things. I've read that he wrote this in 3 days. Jane Harman was Terry's wife, and under a maiden name. And New English Library, they did some publicity stuff about hey, it's actually written by a bloke. They did a publicity still with all the women who worked for Nell outside the front of the offices, with Terry Harkness and Lawrence James like amongst them, and some stuff about who is the real Jane Harman. Terry actually gave the money to Jane, so she did benefit from having her name put onto this, and complete lore dump this. She invested the money in some shares in a Wolverhampton brewery and enjoyed some very small dividends for a number of years to come. Anyway, what do you get for your 3 days of writing and your 2 hours of reading? Similar story, but it's a bit tamer. Probably feels more tongue-in-cheek, I guess. First sentence, Susan wasn't wearing a bra. Actually quite a clever narrative move there, in that the idea of the myth of women burning their bras was part of the whole, trying to keep women's liberation, feminism in its box by ridiculing it. And then it goes on to talk about breasts for half the first page, which I guess would be pretty interesting if you'd never encountered them before. So a takeover builds up. It's not quite so apocalyptic. They don't succeed because a group of an equally militant group of women. So the men are actually portrayed as being useless, but there's a group of women who form a sort of counter revolution that takes down the witch people. So it's a bit like, these are women who, they do want the doors open for them, and that kind of stuff, and they're portrayed in a kind of almost Women's Institute term. So it's a bit like stereotype versus stereotype. normality is restored is what you get in this. There is some violence. I've got to read this passage because it seems to me such a, you're expecting this great transgressive thing, and this is what you get in a rather provincial way. So this is the promised bank holiday battle. As the police moved in, it only served to incense the mob still further, and they turned their destructive attention to property. With the White Town patrol cars and the summer uniformed policemen chasing them, the girls began the witch chant as they smashed everything in sight. Shop windows, slot machines, parked cars, deck chairs, restaurant fittings, a Punch and Judy concession, rides in the children's amusement park, street lights, the flower beds in the municipal gardens. Whatever came into their path, the girls wreaked vengeance upon as terrified holidaymakers dashed for cover. So that was 1971. Paperbacks being some kind of dark side of the popular fears. Fortunately, neither of these turned into long series. As far as I'm aware, they've got no actual sequels. I've read them. I think they qualify as trash, definitely. Which is the most trashy? I kind of think Wham slightly has the edge for having an exclamation mark in the title and two guns, and definitely for the rip-off cover. And I feel a slight fondness for Witch, basically because I liked Terry and he wrote it in 3 days. But they are incredibly cringeworthy, and based on this, I would actually think that women should destroy society and take over. That's my take. Thank you very much.